So Matt, we're both accountants, which is good. We are probably not going to spend a huge amount of time talking about accountancy, because lots of you have turned up, and I think we would just empty the place very quickly if we started talking about accounts and financial reporting, all of that. So first off, I'm going to ask the obvious, the simple question. How did a lovely man like you end up being an accountant?
Thank you, Ian. Well, it's a funny one, really. I mean, at school, I didn't really enjoy school. I was never very good at maths, so anybody who might be a client, don't panic. I can do adding up, but I'm not very good with triangles and equations and other things like that. They had letters in, and that was English, and so I was, not particularly brilliant at that. But one of the things that I found at school was I wasn't very good at maths, and my plan when I didn't want to go to university, I planned on joining the police force, and that was quite an interesting one. Lots of people told me that would be a good thing for me to do. Do you know why? Why so they thought my good quality, I was tall. So anyway, I'll come on to the police a bit later on, but I did a thing at school. It was a form, and it made me, whilst I was sort of thinking about this, it made me realise just how long ago I started doing my accounting stuff, because I was back at school, because I filled in a form with like a piece of paper and a pencil, and you had to, it was something called a job ideas and information something, a generator. It was called JigCal, and you kind of went in and asked you a load of questions, and it spat out some answers and told you what your ideal career would be. Now, all my friends, they all went to grammar school, and they were all very bright, and they had like lots of things like, people going off and working in, doing clever things with science and stuff. I had two jobs. I had locksmith and accountant. And I vowed at that point to the careers advisor, when they say, you could become an accountant. It's like, oh, no, I'm never going to be an accountant. So anyway, that sort of, that was sort of my first stories of being around an accountant. And then I kind of, having tried getting into the police force, I sort of left school, went off and applied to some of the constabularies. I applied for Devon and Cornwall and Avon and Somerset, because I was living down in the West Country at the time. Anyway, the Devon and Cornwall nothing came to, so I moved up here, and I was working for Trust House Forte for a little while. So for those of you who can remember Forte hotels, Welcome Break and all that sort of stuff, I was working in the head office for them. And I got a call from Avon and Somerset Police, and they said, can you come and do some tests and physical stuff, and they passed all of those, and they said, can you come back for an interview? And I was okay, yeah, I'll do that. So anyway, I got to the end, and they sort of said to me, well done, you've been brilliant, but actually you need to come back in a couple of years' time. So I sort of went back to Avon and Somerset, went back to Forte, and I thought to myself at that stage, well, if I don't, in 2 years' time, I don't know where I'll be. Maybe I'll have to look for like a proper job. And being unimaginative, I thought, maybe I can speak to my father-in-law, who's an accountant, and he might have some, he might be looking for some jobs. So he's sliding lower down into his chair over there. Sorry, Nev, circle you out. So anyway, he said, well, I'm not going to get involved with this, but you can come and speak to some of my team. And somehow I managed to convince them that I was up for the job. And that's how it kind of came about, really. Thank you.
Yeah, just switched off. I've completely lost my track. So you're on that journey, career-wise. You're on a bit of a journey with God as well. How did the accounting thing and your faith gel at that point?
I think, to be fair, at the time, it didn't really feel like they did. I think where I was, I'd wanted to join the police force, and I'd wanted a job where I felt I could make a difference and go and help people, and do something with that. And in my young days, my view was much that, you had a job. An accountant was somebody that would try and help wealthy people get more wealthy, and I didn't necessarily huge amounts of good necessarily in that. So, and the Bible passage, we had a reading from Matthew earlier, and I didn't realise, but St Matthew's the patron saint of accountants and bookkeepers. Is that right? Oh, so I was quite surprised by that. I thought that was quite cool. It's like, I'm called Matthew and I do accounting, and there's a patron saint called that. So I thought that was quite fun. Anyway, that's a bit of a digression. But he always sort of got a bit of a bad press early on. So accounting didn't really necessarily feel like it fitted particularly well. Didn't feel like the job would necessarily make a difference. And being a trainee, you're quite new and not really got a lot of interaction doing things with people. But the way I sort of reconciled it, and I hope you'll excuse we did crib services together, reconciled. There's going to be some accounting I'm going to say. Reconciling is an accounting thing. It's like but anyway, we'll move on. All right, there's a hard crowd out here. The accountants out there. Yeah, I'm hoping so, yeah. Anyway, that didn't sort of marry up necessarily that sort of feeling of being able to serve God. But what it did allow me to do was, we were quite busy with the church. I was on the PCC helping out with the young people's groups, junior church and sort of the youth group at the time. And so what it did mean that was I could focus on doing my work, and then when I went home I could forget about work and I could do other things that would help sort of at St Mary's or whatever. So, but in the meantime, the important part for me is that work is some form of ministry, and actually whatever you're doing, whether or not it's cleaning streets, it's serving people in a hospital or doing whatever, or adding up bank statements and putting them in to make sure they balanced, all of those things you just try and do your best as if you're doing it for God style of thing. So that was kind of where.
Awesome. Thank you. Perhaps tell us a little bit now about how your sense of calling kind of developed over those sort of earlier years. We're talking about a while ago now, aren't we?
Yeah, thanks. That is a while ago. I was quite involved, as I said, being involved with various things at church, and helping out with the young people and leading those sessions. And if I switched it off, how to do that? My tummy turned the button off, sorry. Not sure how I managed that. So anyway, I was quite busy doing things at church, and over a period of time, there were a number of folk that sort of came along to me and sort of suggested that I might want to consider exploring some sort of vocational training, and I largely ignored them. I thought, oh no, that's not for me. I'm not able to do that. And then sort of over time, more and more occasions popped up, and I think that just felt that God was sort of nudging me in a particular direction, really. Whilst working, I sort of ended up contacting one of the diocesan vocations advisors and having a conversation with them, and that was really quite interesting. And that was sort of the time where I was still working for other people, very busy. I was working as a financial controller, and I was doing various bits with that. And at that stage, I decided that I would look at exploring vocation, and they wisely, and then it's a bit of a sort of disjointed thing, but I'll come on to it in a little bit. But it was difficult timing-wise with a young family, busy with work and various things. The vocations advisor, one of the things I've noticed over the years is I've tried running away from vocation, and so those of you who've known me for a long time probably know that I've been quite good at trying to sort of dodge any of those things. And the last time I spoke to the vocations advisor, they asked me to do something creative with not a written document. You had to do like an artistic piece, so I did a little video of something. It was like a minute long, and it was basically someone running away from God all the time, but he kept tracking you down and finding you and giving you a nudge. But that was kind of how I sort of felt a sense of calling to do various bits there. But actually, out of all those conversations, the one thing that did keep coming back to me, and I spoke about quite a lot, was actually what I did in my day job, and actually recognised that the work that we're doing at Numbers is very much part of a ministry that we're there to be able to help people with in terms of supporting and serving folk albeit with accounting and tax and other stuff like that, or working with their businesses. It very much came out as an opportunity to be able to support people in the community, local organisations, people that are working with us, and all sorts of other things. So that really did sort of came over. So, and the thing with that was that I took away was that that's actually something you're doing, you know, all week. You're out in the street all the time. You're accountant all the time. You're meeting people all the time and being able to help and support them every day of the week. Whereas quite often doing things here at church might just be sometimes it might just be a Sunday. For lots of people, poor Sally would love to be able to sit there and say it's just a Sunday. But yeah, no, that sort of, that feeling of recognising that actually there is a ministry in serving others, albeit in a unexciting world of accounting.
So you founded your own accounting firm, which is called Numbers, for anybody who doesn't know. The lovely brand is up there. Tell us a little bit about why you chose the name Numbers. It's not, well, at one level it is obvious, but at another level there's something else.
Thank you. So Numbers is a limited company, and this is very boring, I'm going to bore you momentarily now, is that with companies you can't have a name that's used by somebody else. So anyway, when I set up when I was thinking of setting up a business, I remember Neville had given some advice historically about saying something to do with, you probably don't want a name that's complicated. You want something straightforward that's catchy and memorable. You don't necessarily want something like Matt Ryan Accounting Associates or something like that. So one, it's dull and not very interesting, but it's not particularly catchy. So my head went through all sorts of different things with like bean counter and other bits and boring things like that. And I spotted that Numbers was available on Companies House. So I went out and I paid the princely sum of £10 to acquire the name of Numbers. And in October, it's on Neville's birthday, 10th of October, is when Numbers was incorporated. So it has a birthday every year, and that's where that sort of came about. And the reason I chose Numbers was partly because it does what it says on the tin. We're working with numbers. It's not really exciting and sexy. It's but it does that. And the second reason was actually more sort of faith-based, and that was actually, and you've heard it in the reading this morning, Numbers 6, 22 to 27, which is the Aaronic priestly blessing. And the hope for me was that Numbers would be an opportunity to be a blessing on other people in terms of what we were doing and in how we were able to work with them, support them and serve them, and the team and everybody that kind of came into it.
So tell us a little bit about how that works in practice, day to day.
I suppose there's several sort of different ways. I think I've sort of alluded to some of them. One of them is working with local people and organisations. We get to know people and their businesses over a period of time, and we help to journey with them. And the great thing is it's not just a one-off thing. It can be something that you're spending many years fostering and working with those relationships. So the people that come on as clients often are friends as well, or become friends because you've just got an interest in seeing them succeed in whatever it is they're doing. And there's people out there that got far better and much more exciting things than I can be doing, and making really impactful differences around the place. And it's great to be able to sort of journey with them. So doing that and helping out local organisations, whether or not it's sort of helping them to improve what they're doing so that they can be a little bit more financially savvy, spot where they've got problems, or just to be able to sit there and say, okay, well, these are some areas that you can help to work on to make you thrive and grow, is really, really, quite fortunate. So I feel that sort of being part of a journey with other people is a really, really important part, and that's massive. And it's also it's my company. I set the company up, so I haven't got anybody else to worry about. Part of the reason was I don't really like office politics, and I'm not one for wanting to be told by lots of other people what I should or shouldn't be doing. There's lots of regulators that tell me what I should or shouldn't be doing, but I don't see them very often, which is quite a blessing. But generally speaking, I've got the ability to sort of make decisions about what might or might not happen. So we're really fortunate that we can help. I've had people who've had difficult times for whatever reason, working for us at Numbers, so they might have been out of work themselves and needed something just to pay the mortgage. So I've been able to find opportunities for people to do something for a short period, or just, you know, help out some of the youngsters. So a lot over the years we've sort of moved as the business has developed from being at a point where I couldn't afford to employ full-time staff in the early days, but what was really, really useful was that there was opportunity for working mums who come with a huge amount of experience and they're brilliant talent that you're able to dip into and say, you know, would you like to work 9 till 3 because you've got school connections or whatever. So there's a fantastic opportunity to get some really good experience, but not having somebody full-time on the books. Whereas now we're looking at, you know, recruiting more full-time people because we're busy. And actually what I'm loving is the fact that there's opportunities for young people. I find it staggering that it's so hard for kids leaving school now if they don't want to go to university, to be able to go and work out what they want to do with themselves. So one of the things that is, you know, we've got, I think, 4 people training with us currently, all doing their ACCA exams. It's great to be able to give kids an opportunity to you know, develop a skill that they can go off and use in the future at some point. And also, like the kids at the John Collett, we do the work experience, so every now and again the youngsters will come in and just get a glimpse as to whether or not it's something that they might or might not want to deal with. And I've got Mike's grandson coming in a couple of weeks' time. He wants to have a conversation with me about accounting. Didn't necessarily believe his accounting granddad that it would be a great career. So he's coming in a couple of weeks' time to have a natter. But it's, you know, it's great to be able to support that. So that's brilliant. And actually, what's lovely for me is that the blessing that my values are shared by many people here in the church. And actually, of the staff that I've had working at Numbers, either currently or over the years, I've had 17 people from the church working for one period of time or another at Numbers, and there's quite a lot of them still foolishly lingering there, still hanging around. I haven't put them off just yet. Anyway, so that's sort of how I sort of see that there's, you know, it's working closely with people every day of the week. And being able to support them and care for them, and should just hopefully reflect some of God's love over to them.
Awesome, thank you. That all sounds amazing. I'm guessing it isn't all easy. It isn't all downhill. No. It's. I find it quite a challenge personally sometimes. There's a great feeling of responsibility of, having, only as a small business, you don't have an array of people that you can talk to and lean into to be able to give you help in terms of, you know, being able to afford to have experts in every field. It's a question sometimes of being sort of fairly lonely as a leader. In that, and there's quite a weight of responsibility in terms of we've got 20 people on payroll, and there's a number of people who are all reliant on me making good decisions and being able to get work turned around so that we can make sure everybody's paid at the end of the month. So there's stresses that come with that. There's clients that, you know, since COVID, I've noticed that the world has changed quite considerably in terms of everybody being more demanding more quickly, and I'm sure that lots of you sitting out there in the congregation through work or whatever have probably noticed the same. It's, you know, there is generally a demand on people's time. Everything's needed like that. It's really, really quick, rapid response on things. So it's quite difficult trying to make sure that you're managing all of those things, and, you know, making sure that you put other people first rather than necessarily yourself. Sometimes that's difficult, but I mean, I guess to a different level, that's ministry, isn't it, really? If you kind of look at it slightly differently, all of us minister in some capacity or another, and all of us find that life is messy and tough. So it's not saying that just because I'm running a business, it's anything particularly more difficult for me than it is for others within in the congregation or working in the church. I think that's what it is. And it's, you know, in the gospel reading this morning, we were sort of talking about talents and the parable of the talents, and that was kind of looking at the gifts that we're given, and some people having more ability and being given more based on what they've got, and other people being able to use their talents and, you know, gifts
if you like, and then being able to make sure that they're well used and grown and shared, rather than necessarily sort of sitting them and hiding under a bushel, if you like. But and I think sometimes when you're doing ordinary stuff, you don't necessarily see it as being important. So, doing accounting or looking after the family or volunteering here at the church or doing whatever it is you might be doing, all of those things by God are seen equally. They're all done in the same fashion. One of them's not more important than another thing. And actually, as long as you're serving and using that to further his kingdom, then that's all good stuff. So I think that's really, really, really important that people sort of, I take away. And I'm my worst enemy with that a lot of the time. And if I look back at where I was as an accountant when I started and where I am now, the view's just so different. I kind of, in the days of thinking that you're only doing something that's making a small difference to make people more well off, I don't think that at all anymore. I see it much more as a ministry in terms of serving other people and helping them in their day-to-day life. Sally mentioned earlier about the songs, and I sort of talk about that quickly now, if that's all right, because they're kind of... So one of the songs that you heard us singing at the beginning, and the reading that we had was number 6, again, so it's that priestly blessing. So just love that. It's just, for me, it is what we all want to be aspiring to be able to be a reflection of God's love, being able to sort of share that with people. And the other song that I picked earlier, so coming back to your question about it all not always being easy, is Strength Will Rise. And that comes from Isaiah 40, which is sort of a part in the Bible where we're moving over from the Israelites have had a tough time to a period of sort of hope and comfort that God's offering to people. And for me, that's what's really, really sort of important about that song. It gives me encouragement that we can hope in God to give us the strength. And I don't always, it all sounds very, oh, well done, Matt, very holy and righteous and good. And it's like none of that. It's like, you just struggle along. Sometimes it does feel a struggle, but you know that God is there supporting. And so that song to me is really sort of valuable when I think of the tougher times. That's sort of what I tend to like to draw on. Anyway, I'll shut up.
Brilliant. Thank you, Matt. Finally, you're all breathing a sigh of relief. And we haven't touched accounting, really, have we? We've done very well. Neither of us are getting any younger. So let's talk about legacy. When you think about numbers, when you think about what you've built here in the community, and you think about legacy, what do you want that to be?
That's really hard. I think that was probably, of all your questions that you'd thrown over, that was probably one of the ones I was slightly challenged with, struggled with. I think I said earlier that numbers is 20 this year. I can't believe that it's made it to 20 years. But what's been great about the fact that it's made it to 20 years is that when you have a milestone, and I'm sure all of us, I was 50 this year as well, when you have a milestone celebration, it's a chance to look back and reflect on things. And so I kind of have done that over the course of this year. I've been thinking a little bit about who I've journeyed with, where it's gone and grown, and what the business has become in that time, and it's been quite brilliant. And about 2 months ago, it was just the week of the service that we did on inclusion, that was excellent. I went on a course that week, and the course was to do with purpose, values, inclusion, all sorts of things. So it actually was amazing that it tied in beautifully with the service that we did. I'm looking at Alison over there, by the way, who was one of the people interviewed. That was just a really, really interesting opportunity to hear corporate leaders coming and talking about their businesses and how they'd grown, and what sort of things that they were doing to make sure that people across the board were included. So they had somebody come from Timpson's, and I don't know if you know, but Timpson's are one of the largest employers of ex-criminals in the company. So it's really interesting to see how other firms, and that was founded by some Christians, and that was interesting just listening to how the big corporates did things, and actually taking away that even though we were a tiny little business on the high street in Wendover, some of the best practices that were being spoken about, and the fact that, one of the people there was really surprised that people like to be thanked. And it was like, what world are we living in? It's like crazy that something as simple as just being able to say, thank you for coming in, and, you know, I know this is your job and you're paid to do it, but actually you've done a brilliant job, and just being grateful for that. Those small little things of recognition for people. Everybody is important. So for me, being able to see that, and they had a chap come in and he did one of these sort of things where he asks you to go away and reflect on what your purpose is. And as I sat there going through it, I spent a little bit of time kind of going, oh, I don't know, this is one of these daft things, I hate doing this. But it did dawn on me, and I came back again to those principles that I had when I set the business up, about God being important. Sorry, I'm getting all kind of slightly emotional, and it's like sad he's getting emotional over being accounting things. But I think it's really important. It's like, you know, we have an opportunity to be a blessing on people, and I think that is the value that sort of comes across. So for me, the song that we sang, or we will sing at the end, Hope Will Rise, God is everlasting and his values are everlasting. People come and go along the way. I'll go at some point, and I just hope that the values that are there are deeply embedded within the organisation, and they will continue to be something that are shared and valued by numbers, the corporation. But anyway, there you go.
Awesome, thank you. Matt, it's always a pleasure to chat with you. Slightly more odd with all these people looking, but really good. I'm sure I speak for everybody here in calling on God to continue to bless all that you do and your ministry through numbers and to this amazing community. So thank you, well done. Thank you so much for sharing. You've been very open. Let's thank Matt in the usual way.
Again, thank you, Matt. Next week, I am going to be talking to Edward Blakeman. So there'll be lots more about music next week. Next Sunday is the treasure hunt. It's you can come between 2 and 2:30, pick up a sheet with all the clues on, wander around the village, probably for a mile or so, and then come back. And when you come back, there will be tea and cakes. So it's always been very popular and wonderful to have so many people outside afterwards. So please tell neighbours, friends. We're trying to get it out on social media and posters around the village as much as we can to make this a great success again. But I said tea and cakes. That means we need cakes. So please, if you're able to, and last time there were a lot of people, so if you're able to make a cake, Natalie is, oh, there she is. Natalie's here. Natalie needs people to help her as well. So there'll be afternoon teas from 2:30, is that right, Natalie? And needs help for that, and then people sort of arrive back at 3:30, 3:45, and that's when it's really busy. So if you can help, Natalie's here. Did you want to say any more than that? That was to do that. So, but let's make it a great success. The other one thing that I want to highlight to you was, if you get the update, you would have received an additional email on Tuesday. When we moved in January to our slightly different pattern of services, we said we would give you a chance to say what you thought about it. And that email has a link to a form to give you that opportunity. If you don't receive the email or doing something by computer is difficult, on the trunk over there are some paper copies. So take one and fill that in. As I said, just a chance to tell us if you think it's awful, if you think it's wonderful, please do that. So,
I walked a road I didn't choose, found strength I didn't know I had. With these two hands I work and move, a quiet promise, simply glad in all that we do. Let us be a blessing, walking alongside, a door softly opening. In all that we do, let us be a blessing.